Good evening and welcome to Across the Pitch. We're the soccer show for people who think that Plymouth Argyle is a kind of socks.
Lost me. Wasn't the Plymouth something that they landed at in the Mayflower? I don't bloody know. What do I know? What's the Plymouth Argyle sock? Oh, I'm hopeless. I need to catch up.
Argyle is, you know those socks with like the diamond pattern on them?
Oh, the golf socks. Yeah, I'm with you. Okay.
Yeah, those are Argyle socks.
Ah, right. Cool. So I don't play golf, but I'm a dad, so I'm surprised I don't know that. All right, on tonight's show, we uncover the greatest spy since Captain Sir Mansfield Smith Cumming. Great name. Phil does an actual recreation of the Battle of Yorktown single-handedly, and we talk about that vital piece of wood. And finally, has the curse been lifted? But first,
on tonight's episode, we have Matt Robards joining us again.
Hi, Matt.
What's up, guys? Glad to be here again.
Happy to have you, and you're going to be joining us on a weekly basis now, isn't that right?
I am, yeah. I'm excited to hang out with you guys more and talk some football or some soccer, as we call it over here in the States.
Well, I'm bollocks. We talk bollocks on this show, mate. It's great to have you on board. I hope you know what you're getting yourself into.
Hey, I'm just surprised you guys welcome a Chelsea supporter with open arms.
Well, no open arms.
More than excited to have you with us here every week, and we think that the show has a lot of great things coming forward. This week we have another great episode together. We are also having our special guest. I don't know if you remember him from episode 2, if you've been with us that long. Scott Brown, midfielder from Accrington Stanley, is going to be joining us this weekend to be talking about their upcoming matchup in the 4th round of the FA Cup. That was decided today, and that will be Derby County, who was successful today in penalty kicks over Southampton and will be facing off with Accrington Stanley on Saturday, January 26th, and we'll be having Scott in to talk about that game and everything Accrington this weekend, so that'll be a special episode coming up.
Fun fact, Phil, January 26th is Australia Day, so we want to get that interview out early because I've got some snags to cook.
You're going to be celebrating pretty hard, huh?
On tonight's episode, we have quite a bit to cover. Now, it has been a bit of a slow week as the Premier League hasn't had any games during the week. The Champions and Europa League are still off, but we did have a couple of rematches of the FA Cup that we're going to talk about. We also had a major retirement. Legendary goaltender Petr Cech, now of Arsenal, who's also former 4-time league champion and spent a number of years with Chelsea, announced his retirement.
Yes.
I like the way you worded that, Phil, because it sounded like he had a couple of league titles with Arsenal. Oh, boy. Matt?
Matt, you actually got your root for Peter when he was winning those 4 league titles, so why don't you tell us a little bit about the Premier League's all-time league leader in clean sheets?
Yeah, I mean, so I'm a little biased now because I am a Chelsea supporter, but got to be up there in the discussion of one of the top 3 best goalkeepers to play the game. I mean, just his stats alone, 443 Premier League appearances, and out of those, he registered 202 clean sheets. 202 games where he didn't let a single goal in, 280 wins, only 76 losses. I mean, the guy was just a beast in the back. So you mentioned the 4 Premier League titles, but the trophies don't in there. The 5 FA Cups, 3 League Cups, 4 Community Shields, and then the Champions League success of 2012, and then the Europa League the following year. he will be missed in the game. I can't even imagine the goalkeepers that he's influenced.
It's incredible career. He's been in the game as long as I've been watching it, and it'll be sad to see him go because he has been a fixture. Well, up until recently, I guess you could say, he's been a consistent presence in the Premier League.
Yeah, I mean, so as a Chelsea supporter, I love him. Watching the saves, watching the games, I mean, by far the best save was in the Champions League. Overtime, Ian Robin draws the penalty off of Didier Drogba, and Cech stonewalls it, makes the save.
Amazing.
They go into penalty kicks. He saves 2, tips Schweinsteiger's penalty off the post, and then Drogba steps up and buries it. So my question for you guys, as Arsenal supporters, what are your memories of Cech going to be? I mean, he's only been with your club for 3 to 4 years now, I think. So what do you guys feel about him?
Petr Cech on Arsenal, the thing that I think has really happened in the past few years is I think that as he's gotten older, that some of the techniques that are being used these days, especially if you look at a guy like David De Gea, things are very footwork oriented where goaltenders are expected to handle the ball more. And I think that Petr Cech, he's more of a traditional goaltender where he tends to goal. He's not real good with his feet. And I think that's ultimately been why he's been phased out over the past few years. But you really can't blame all of the decline specifically on him because obviously Arsenal's defense is clearly nothing like what Chelsea's was when they were winning championships. And they've got
No, it's no Jose Mourinho park the bus defense there.
So far this year, Arsenal has brought in Burned Leno, and their defense has turned him into Burned Leno quite a bit this year.
Yeah, their defense hasn't been doing too well. So, well, that's cool. I appreciate that perspective because, like I said, he's going to go down as a Chelsea legend, and he already has a picture up on the shed wall outside of Stamford Bridge.
Is that right?
Yeah.
He's got some competition, I guess, in terms of Arsenal goalkeeping legends. I mean, David Seaman probably would outrank him at Arsenal, just in purely terms of presence and time played there at the club. But of course, you've got your erratic types like Jens Lehmann, and who can forget Jens Lehmann and his mad... Oh, funny enough, speaking of Drogba, do you remember... I think it might have been a EFL Cup final or something, and he'd had enough of Drogba's playing around, so he decided just to, bounce off him and fall to the ground. I don't know if you recall that. He was a madman. But Petr Cech, certainly one of the legends in goal, and he'll certainly be fondly farewelled by the Arsenal fans, I think.
Yeah, we're going to miss him. So rumors coming out that Chelsea are going to try to bring him in either as a coach or some sort of club ambassador. So hopefully we'll see him again wearing the blue of Chelsea.
God, you love just rubbing it in all the time, don't you, man?
A couple other things that I think merit mentioning before we digress on our discussion of Petr Cech is one thing that I'm sure that everybody's noticed is that he always wears a helmet when he's on the field. And I think it's important to talk about that actually has to do with an injury that he overcame early in his career. It was a very serious head injury where he actually got kicked in the head. This was when he was with Chelsea and had a skull fracture and managed to come back and overcome adversity from that massive injury and still become a legendary player. And I believe in all competitions, you may have already mentioned this, Matt, I believe he has over 200 clean sheets at all competitions.
Yep, 202.
202. And
that's a lot of Tide Pods.
Oh, oh God. that head injury is worth mentioning, as you say, Phil. It was nasty. I remember watching this match. It was against Reading, and I'm going to say around about 2006.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. It was nasty. Like, they immediately stretched this guy off, and there was fears for his life at one point, I believe. And to see him bounce back from that, that's why he doesn't wear that headgear. It's sort of not really a helmet, it's soft padding, but even so, it's pretty sure at this stage it's probably more psychological. That's his battle gear these days.
Yeah.
I believe that it is doctor's orders that he has to wear it, and he actually has mentioned in interviews that he wouldn't wear it if the doctors didn't make him.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
We've talked quite a bit about a legend that's retiring, and now I think it would be a good time to talk about our player of the week for this week.
Yes.
And this is a guy that realistically could be the guy that ends up breaking all of Petr Cech's records one day. That, of course, is Manchester United goaltender David De Gea. He's a Spanish international. This week, if you had a chance to watch the Tottenham Hotspur versus Manchester United game, it was really one of the most exciting games of the season. A big part of the reason for that was the play of De Gea, who recorded an 11 save clean sheet.
Incredible.
11 saves, which imagine a hockey goaltender getting a 70 save shutout. That's what an 11 save clean sheet is like in the EPL.
Yes, so against Tottenham, the amazing thing about that is that, that's a very full-strength attacking side that they had there, and he managed to keep them out. He single-handedly kept them out, I have to say. He was the reason why Manchester United was in that game.
Yes. Yeah, it was a great...
It could have easily been 4-1.
Yeah, with that big foot of his, I don't know what size it is. I'm going to go size 22. Was any smaller, it might have been a little bit different.
Yeah, it was a great performance by De Gea. And it's something really we haven't seen a lot this year from him. He's been giving up a lot of soft goals this year. And so to come out against Tottenham after, they've just had the new manager come in, they're experiencing that little boost, but everyone was talking about how they just hadn't played anybody. What were they going to do against the top six side? And here he shows up against Tottenham and performs huge. A little fun fact for you guys, the only top flight league match in which David De Gea has made more saves was against Arsenal at the Emirates in 2017. He made 14 saves. So
right.
I'd toss that in for you boys.
Did we
you guys
win?
won.
I can't
you
remember.
Beat Tottenham.
Yes!
So that one wasn't a clean sheet then, but 14, wow.
14,
that's a lot of shots.
He's going to go down in history for sure. Probably the best goalkeeper in the game right now.
It's actually Lucas Fabianski of West Ham United, and I'll tell you what, he's probably one of the reasons why West Ham has done so well. Lucas Fabianski is ex-Arsenal goalkeeper. He played the second fiddle to Petr Cech. He's had an incredible 83 saves this year.
Wow.
David De Gea is right behind him, though, with 80. So, yeah, good.
David De Gea, I think the thing that you have to look at is that he kind of struggled in the World Cup with Spain, and I think his confidence had been down a little bit ever since then. And then, of course, United was struggling ever since Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. I know I said that.
Ole Gunnar goal scorer.
Yeah, Ole Gunnar goal scorer. I'll go with that one. I'll just call him Ole Gunnar. Ever since Ole Gunnar took over, it really has just been a huge boost to the whole team in terms of confidence. And you can see that was the biggest thing as he was playing with confidence. The other thing that you can take away from that game is really going back to what I was talking about Petr Cech not being as good with his feet. Like you mentioned, Arran, De Gea was making a lot of these saves with his feet. In fact, at one time, the announcer even said, just take your gloves off. You're not even using He's really, just a complete player in terms of the way that he handles the ball, the way that he directs the defense. He's really a top flight player all around.
And it's interesting that you mentioned the footwork as well, because that seems like it's a new goaltending trend. And Matt, correct me if I'm wrong here, but your strikers and your midfielders, they tend to go for the weakest part of the goalkeeper, which is typically the feet. In particular, between the feet, if I'm not mistaken. So that's sort of shutting that down. I mean, you don't have to use your hands. All of a sudden, you're getting into the head of the strikers going, oh, God, I have to do something that I haven't been training to get around.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. You see strikers, midfielders, they're going to go low into the corners. And if you have someone like De Gea or, Kepa Arrizabalaga that is good with their feet.
I'm glad you said that, not me.
Yeah.
Well, that wasn't the correct pronunciation, but that's the American pronunciation.
We'll let you go with that. We're not going to call you out on it.
What I really compare this to, and I think is a great comparison, is it goes back to the 1990s in hockey when Patrick Waugh specifically and also Martin Brodeur, they came into the NHL and they brought a new style of goaltending. It was known as the butterfly style of goaltending, and it also involved the feet and being able to use your feet and your legs to block this lower portion of the goal. And as the more and more butterfly style goaltenders came into the league, the old what they called stand-up style goaltenders, even the ones that were the greats of the game, they became phased out just because they weren't using the same technique. It's almost, if you go all the way back in history and look at an Olympic sport like the high jump, when Dan Fosbury came along and it went over the bar backwards instead of going over with one leg first like they had been doing, and completely changed the sport of high jump. At some point it becomes where the sport evolves, and no matter how great a player like Petr Cech is, if the guys that are coming up are playing a more evolved form of the position, then that's what happens. It's nothing to take away from the player now. It's just that he wasn't trained in that type of style that the newer goaltenders are.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, if you look at the goalkeepers now that people would say are the elite goalkeepers, guys like Ederson and De Gea, they play with their feet.
And Matt Ryan.
These are guys that can play with their feet, and teams now are building out of the back as opposed to, a goalkeeper, punting the ball down the field or throwing it long. You see goalkeepers now rolling it out to the center backs or the full backs, and then they're playing it out of the back. And so a goalkeeper that can play with their feet, that's the new thing now. And so those are the guys that are considered the elite goalkeepers. And like you mentioned, Phil, they're kind of pushing out that old style of goalkeeper.
Mate, I think you've hit the nail on the head there with that. And probably Unai Emery coming into Arsenal and that play out of the back type of scenario that he likes to play probably accelerated Petr Cech's departure, I would say, because...
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. He even openly said that he needed a guy that could play with his feet. And it was very clear in that first few games that Cech started out. And like I said, you had those couple of Charlie Brown experiences where he was just a fish out of water trying to dribble the ball and do things that he had never been asked to do over the past 20 years of his career.
Yes, quite a fascinating topic there, lads, I have to say. Let's move on, shall we? I think we've talked enough about goalkeepers or goaltenders, as you've very nicely said in here, Phil, on the show sheet. FA Cup. We had a couple of big games in the FA Cup this week.
Yeah, some replays.
Did you want to tell the listeners a little bit about the replays? I know we mentioned this before, but it's always something that it's probably good to explain before we go into it.
I actually do, because I want to make a correction from what I said last week. So I want to go back on my words from last week where I said there are no two-legged matches in the FA Cup. I think, Phil, you probably corrected me at the time. This is what they call a replay. So rather than go to extra time and then have a decider, they go and play the game again. And it's so if you're the home team, you're playing away in the replay. That's if it ends in a draw. Then goes to a replay, which happens generally Tuesdays and Wednesdays. So we had a couple of those this week. Derby over Southampton today was a belter, I have to say.
That was a fantastic game, and you can never mention it enough times that Derby knocked Manchester United out of the EFL Cup, and that was...
Yes, you can. Say it again, Phil.
Say it louder.
Derby knocked Manchester United out of the EFL Cup, and that was a game that ended up
Was that
going
Derby?
into penalty kicks. And once again, this was Derby, who is a championship team, beating a Premier League team in a knockout game. A little bit less prestige, but still Southampton is a Premier League
Yes.
team.
Mm-hmm.
Derby was able to take them down in penalties today. This was a game that they actually trailed 2-0, were able to come back, make it level by the end of the game, and then they were able to end up winning the game in penalty kicks. I believe it was 5-4 or 5-3.
5-3. Before we go on to the next match in the FA Cup, lads, I'd like to go and have a chat a little bit more about an incident that happened last week. And for those of you who didn't understand what I meant by the greatest spy since Captain Sir Mansfield Smith coming, there was a spying allegation which the manager for Leeds United confessed to. He's like, yep, we've sent spies to every single match that they've played, to the training grounds of their opponents, every match this year.
Yep.
And this try and get intelligence.
First in the championship right now, and right now is 4 points clear of Sheffield United, looking at promotion to the Premier League next year. And the thing is that it could still be held against them, but as far as what I've been reading, it technically wasn't against any rules, so it sounds like they're probably going to get away with it.
They may. There's a couple of shady rules there in the FA Cup, and that's bringing the league into disrepute, which they've done. They've used that rule quite a number of different times. And there's the other one, not playing in the spirit of the sport, which it's just some English bollocks, honestly. It's seriously, they've got these rules in cricket, and no one knows what it means. It's like, yeah, you're being a bit of a prick, so we're going to fine you for it. And they probably will. I don't know if they're going to dock points off them for it, but it does raise a few questions about how Leeds are doing so well this year.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's like stealing signs in baseball, or the coach that had the watch at the dugout. I mean, I think that it goes back to, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. And you know, every professional athlete, after they retire, they come out with a book and they talk about, oh yeah, I did this, I did this, I did this. I think the news would be if somebody wasn't cheating and they were in first place.
See, and we're going back to the Battle of Yorktown here. There's a definite difference in the way that the English games are played as opposed to the American games. And yeah, Americans by nature, you're competitive, you're out to get the win by any means necessary, where the English were like spitting their tea out of some of the antics you guys get up to. Well, oh, that's just not cricket, you lot. Oh, how ungentlemanly of you. Bielsa. He's probably got a few questions. You know what? He is Argentinian. I don't know if you know the history of the Falklands War. They still don't like each other very much. So I reckon he'll probably get a couple of bans.
Yeah, I mean, there are some reports coming out that he's actually going to step down because of all this.
Oh, really?
Which some Leeds fans are not happy about, right? I mean, this is a man who's taken them to the Premier League, and so this could be big for their season if he does in fact step down. And so it's kind of crazy. I mean, personally, you know, like we've talked about, how many other teams have done something similar? We will probably never know. He has admitted to sending spies to watch all of his opponents train. Should Leeds be deducted some points? Probably. They probably won't. Like you said, Aaron, he'll probably just receive a couple matches ban, but he could step down. I mean, this is a big story developing in the championship because, like we pointed out, they are sitting in that automatic promotion spot right now at first. And so if a mere couple losses drop them into the playoffs, and you know, one or two draws could even drop them into those lower spots that don't get, you know, seventh or below that don't make the playoffs. Right. So this could be a big story come the end of the season.
Absolutely.
Sheffield United and Norwich are both only 4 points back. So if they were to drop a couple of matches, they could be in third in 2 weeks.
Yep.
Norwich for English fans. Yes, I know you fought a war, but try, Phil. Come on, man. Fun fact. Fun fact about Leeds. Guess who is a minority owner of Leeds United?
Who's that?
It's a company called 49ers Enterprises. Any guesses where the 49ers come from?
Oh,
California.
Yes, how about that? How interesting
interesting.
is that? Yeah. For those of you who don't know, Dan Kroenke is the owner of the now LA Rams, and he's pumped a lot of money into that club.
What I was thinking is with all the money that Stan Kroenke has paid into the Rams, and of course he's also an Arsenal owner, he needs to cash in on that investment with the NFL season getting ready to wrap up. I don't know how many of you are familiar with this, but one of his star defensive players from the Rams, Ndamukong Suh, actually grew up playing soccer. Now, I think that if you put him at center back, that you're probably not going to have too many guys going anywhere near the goal from the other
No,
team.
he's a big lad, isn't he?
And he can play.
What can he play?
He grew up playing soccer and
Oh, he can play soccer. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were saying he could play spoiler because he's a damn dirty cheat. I'm going to keep that in.
I think his first send-off would get about 10 million hits on YouTube.
For sure.
He might even beat Vinnie Jones to the record.
Ndamukong Suh, while he may be the last guy on the NFL field that you'd expect to be a soccer player or have a background in soccer, there's actually quite a few athletes in American sports that have a background in soccer. Many of them may have grown up in Europe or just have a background in the sport to begin with. Andrew Luck, quarterback of the Indianapolis Colts, he is known to be a huge soccer fan. Grew up in England. He also grew up playing it. Odell Beckham of the New York Giants. He may be the second most talented guy named Beckham ever to step on a soccer field. It's not just football, but if you watch the Champions League, you know that Steve Nash, former player for the Phoenix Suns, is a soccer player, Spurs fan, unfortunately. The thing that really stuck out to me is that there's two positions in American sports that seem to be littered with former soccer players. Now, one kind of goes without saying is NFL kickers, and I think just about everybody knows that most NFL kickers were just guys who were too slow to play on the soccer team.
You could probably have an argument to say that about goalkeepers as well. I won't go there.
The most surprising thing that you may find is how many NBA centers actually have a background in soccer. And this, once again, this might be guys that, just got too tall for the soccer team and turned to basketball. Hakeem Olajuwon, the Hall of Fame center, Tim Duncan, soon to be Hall of Fame center who recently retired, both had a background in soccer. David Robinson, the Hall of Fame center for the San Antonio Spurs in the 1990s, is actually a huge Arsenal fan, has a background in soccer. Kobe Bryant, he grew up in Europe, he grew up in France and Italy, grew up playing soccer. So if you look at American sports, they are really just littered with former soccer players, and some coaches like Jim Harbaugh, for instance, specifically seek out players with a background in soccer because of the type of coordination. And this really brings to the basketball centers is if you look at these 7-foot tall players, your average 7-foot tall player is a guy that he's there because he's 7 feet tall and that's about it. These guys became Hall of Famers because not only were they 7 feet tall, but because of the footwork that they learned playing association football.
Would you suggest that the reason why they went into basketball was because of the professional route, or is it because they just really preferred basketball? Now that we've got the MLS, which is going from strength to strength, not that we particularly like them at the moment here in Phoenix, but now that they're going from strength to strength and expanding into other cities, would you say that there's more likelihood of, a stronger international presence because they're able to keep the younger players in that professional stream?
Well, certainly I think so. The thing that you do have to look at with almost all of the players that we've talked about, even though these players, with the exception of David Robinson and Odell Beckham, even though they played in American sports. Actually, I'm sorry, Ndamukong Suh also. The other players that I've mentioned, they all come from soccer playing countries. Andrew Luck, although he's American, he grew up in England. Tim Duncan actually grew up in the Virgin Islands, and he was actually a swimmer and a soccer player, and I don't believe he ever even picked up a basketball until he turned about 16, I want to say. Hakeem Olajuwon is from Nigeria. I do believe that I actually have specifically read that he just simply got too tall to be a soccer player anymore.
Yeah.
He's about 7'3", I want to say. So I mean, he's on the tall end of even these guys.
You know, that was my dad's reason for not playing soccer, because my dad was 6'7". Well, I say was, he's still alive, but he's shrunk now because he's old. But he used to say he couldn't play soccer because his brain was too far away from his feet. I don't know how true that is, Malcolm, but I just think you're a little bit clumsy. You would have made a great 1990s goalkeeper.
You know, I think this is a great discussion. I think what we're going to see is people that are dual sport athletes. You know, maybe they are playing basketball and soccer, or they're playing football and soccer. I think we're going to see more and more of them maybe start to gravitate towards soccer because they are seeing the career ahead of them. Whereas I remember growing up playing soccer in the early 90s, there wasn't a professional U.S. Soccer league. The MLS came along in 1996. And so, playing soccer in the early 90s here in the U.S. with parents that really didn't watch the sport much, or there wasn't the TV access to the international leagues, there wasn't just any idea of what you do besides, well, I play for fun. I play in rec. I play in high school. Maybe I play in college. But now we're seeing that there's a path to professional soccer in the States. And I think more and more of those kids that are dual athlete sports might choose soccer as the route to go, especially with all the stuff coming out with football, with all the CTE and the injuries and all that.
Right. Interesting. Yes, quite right.
I mean, just a little insight into my life. My wife and I have both said that our two sons, we don't want them playing American football because of those risks. And so both of my sons, or my oldest son plays soccer and my youngest son will play soccer as well.
There is also a risk of, I don't want to drag you down, Matt, and I don't know whether you want to keep it in here, Phil, but there is a risk of CTE in soccer as well from hitting the balls so often. Right. Just that repetition of hitting the balls again and again, like your brain gets knocked about so much, it's going to stop working.
Yeah, and some of the rec leagues we play in actually have rules in place where, depending on the age group, they aren't even allowed to do that.
Oh, is that right? Well, good. Yeah, right.
Just to have everybody wear Petr Cech's hat.
There you
go. Lads, I think it is time to have a little bit of a chat about our curse and our team of the month. Team of the month, of course, is Luton Town. Some mixed news for them. You may have heard from last week's episode that Nathan Jones was sequestered up into into the championship, I beg your pardon, up into Stoke. How did those results go for, well, not only Luton, but also for Stoke this week?
I don't think that they've gone too well for either side. I've seen plenty of faces of regret memes from Nathan Jones saying, maybe I shouldn't have done this, but Luton, who had been struggling a little bit even before he left, and interestingly enough, they've struggled to score goals. This was a team that was leading all of Europe in offense at one point. I believe they've only scored one goal total in their past 4 matches, including a 1-0 defeat yesterday at the hands of Sheffield Wednesday in their replay of the FA Cup game.
That was a tough game for them as well, the Hatters. They've not been having a good run, and it's not entirely our fault because the poor run started when they were playing Walsall back on the 29th of December, so they must have heard that they were going to be our team of the month.
It was a rough game for them. They probably should have done a little bit better, but they didn't come out on top, and it's sad to watch.
But here's the thing, though. They're out of the FA Cup now, but they can probably go and look at moving forward from League One.
Now, Sheffield Wednesday, they are a championship side. So with Luton Town being a League One side, they were playing a league up. As we mentioned in last week's episode, in the first matchup, it was a 0-0 draw between Luton and Sheffield Wednesday. And then in the replay that happened yesterday, it was 1-0 Sheffield. So over the course of 2 full games, they only allowed 1 goal. Of course, they didn't score any, but they only did allow just the 1 goal, and that was playing a mid-table team from the championship.
They're a pretty miserable team, actually, in the championship. And you can go and have a look at what we spoke about earlier in the competition. You should probably go and have a look at Southampton versus Derby, which is what we're talking about. And that's how you go and take on a team. You show no fear, and I feel like maybe the Hatters have lost a bit of confidence in recent weeks, and it showed out there on the pitch.
They did get some news today that could re-energize their batteries, didn't they?
Yes, they did, and I want to give a shout out to Luton Town Facebook group moderator, Dave Gilmore. Hi mate, how are you? He posted on our Facebook page, facebook.com/across-the-pitch. Good news.
His group called Luton Town Till I Die.
Excellent. Luton Town Till I Die. Good to have you guys on board. And he says on our Facebook page, we are on our way back. Planning approved for the new stadium. Come on, you Hatters.
Basically, what has happened is that the 23,000-seat stadium that we talked about on last week's episode, the county council has approved that, so Luton is able to go forward with their new stadium. That, of course, means more money because they're going to be able to sell more tickets. I believe they're doubling their capacity. Of course, they get the £1 million that we talked about last week from Nathan Jones. And if they can advance into the championship, which they are still right now in the
second place. They're still in second place.
53 points, 1 ahead of Sutherland for the automatic promotion.
Matthew saying it's big news because...
Yeah, I think it's huge news for them because, like Phil pointed out, this increases their ability to spend. You sell more tickets, you can put more money into the club. And here's the thing. Yes, it's sad they got knocked out of the FA Cup. Great competition. But a League One side has never won that competition. And so in reality, they probably weren't going to win it.
Right.
So now they can focus their attention on the League One fixtures. They can fight for that automatic promotion, get up into the championship, which now gives them even more money to go out and buy players. And hopefully they continue to rise and stay in the championship for a couple of years and work their way up.
Fantastic. And that's almost a Premier League ready stadium that there. I mean, if they wanted to add more capacity, just looking at the plans, they can add more capacity there.
Yeah.
Definitely with this stadium, I feel like this is their way of announcing that their goal is the top tier.
Right.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Now, the other part of the news that I was talking about there as well is Nathan Jones went off to Stoke. And I think we prefaced this last week, lads, didn't we? That's a tough gig. And how did it go?
Stoke in their last games, they're 1 win, 1 draw, and 3 losses. They've lost their last 2 matchups. They currently sit 15th in the championship table, 3 points ahead of Sheffield Wednesday in 16th. And
they just got beat by Shrewsbury.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about, Matt. Thank you for bringing that up because, yes.
Which was rough. I mean...
Shrewsbury is 18th in the League One table right now at 30 points. Shrewsbury is only 3 points ahead of the relegation zone.
They're not having a good season. Not at all.
No, not about
I tell you what, I'm looking forward to Stoke City Till I Die coming out on Netflix, and I think it'll be the comedy of the season. Let's have a chat about Tottenham for a while, guys. Do you think their title chances are done?
I don't think they had title chances to begin with.
Oh, snap!
Here's what I would say is Pochettino in an interview the other day said something along the lines of, we're already losing Son. We really can't afford to lose Harry Kane. It's very rare that you actually hear any coach say in an interview something like that. Usually the company line is, next man up. Very
Yes.
rarely do you have a coach come out and say, yeah, we can't really afford to lose both of these guys. So with him saying that, I think you definitely have to be concerned if you're a Spurs fan.
I do. Yes, you do have to be concerned. And I'm leaving a deliberate space here, Phil, because I want to have a chat about this. I love this about Americans, right? Next man up. We will continue on. That's a very American way. Let me give you another example. The US men's national team and their fans going, I believe that we will win. You guys have no idea how football works sometimes. I swear to God. You're all about managing expectations in football. You're like, okay, so I've lost my 2-star strikers. Preferred one hadn't gone off to Asia or barely just Asia, and the other one hadn't got a season-ending injury.
It's not season ending.
All but.
He's going to be back in March.
Or let's call it all but. Yeah, the season's going to be over for Tottenham by that point, I can tell you that. Here's the thing. You guys have this wonderful thing in America about how you guys are, yes, we can do it with sheer willpower, and I love you guys for it. When it comes to the English are terrible, terrible pessimists. So they're going to state the worst first and hope for better. I'm hoping that, you're not going to be wrong. For Mauricio Pochettino to say, I wish they hadn't gone, that's a very practical way of saying in England, shit, we're fucked.
Well, yeah. And
That's exactly what I was getting at, is for him to come out and say that. Yeah, I mean, we're in trouble. I mean, if the coach, it may be a little bit different. I mean, obviously in America, Bill Belichick is the ultimate next man up guy. He doesn't care. He'll win with whoever's on the field. But I feel like that generally has to be the attitude of any coach in the professional sports world, because injuries do happen where when you have the coach saying we can't afford to lose these guys, it's one thing for the coach to say it in the locker room, but in a public interview, I think it's very unusual for any coach to specifically say that any two players are bigger than the whole team per se.
Bless you, Jose Mourinho, wherever you are now. Is there...
Buying groceries in Portugal last I saw.
Is there... Actually, I think he's weighing in on the Asia Cup right now.
Yeah, isn't he going to be a guest commentator on the Arsenal-Chelsea game?
Oh, is he? Oh, dog. Yeah. Okay, so everyone listening, we've mentioned before how much Jose Mourinho is just a wonderful person to interview because of his eccentricity, I guess is probably the word. But for him to be a pundit, even if you don't like the game, you just have to be there for his halftime report and go, no. Nope, they was shit.
Bill Belichick in the booth would be the comparison I would say would be closest.
Okay, so everyone, one last thing we need to talk about, and that is you can listen to us across many a channel now. You can see us on facebook.com/acrossthepitch, Twitter Across Pitch, and our new Instagram.com/acrossthepitch, hosted by none other than our very new, very cool co-host, Matt.
Yeah, come over and see us, follow us on Instagram. I'm posting stuff on there, asking questions, looking for some interaction. So you can find us again at Instagram.com/acrossthepitch.
And please ask questions. We don't have time for questions tonight. Oh, one more thing, actually, Phil. You have set us up on YouTube. You can go and have a look at us or listen to us on YouTube. Just go and search for Across the Pitch.
We have our own YouTube channel now, and we've actually posted all of our episodes to YouTube. Lucky for you, you don't have to see our ugly mugs, just a logo, and listen to the episode.
The hell are you talking about? I'm pretty.
We will be putting some exclusive content on YouTube. We will be actually adding some video content soon, but you can go to YouTube now, just search for Across the Pitch, find our channel. All of our episodes are on there, and they will all be going on there immediately going forward. You can also find us on Spotify. Matt's doing a great job with our Instagram page.
Yep.
Of course, as Aaron said, facebook.com/across the pitch. On Twitter, we are across pitch. At across pitch is where you can find us there. And we're popping up on more and more places. You can find us on Podbean, on Stitcher now, and we should be up on iTunes shortly. So anywhere that you consume your podcasts at. And of course, you can always go to acrossthepitch.com.
Yes, you can. And there you will see Phil's brand new blog post about how to watch the EPL in America.
The first part is going to explain all of the 5 different leagues that the English teams can play in, how you qualify for those leagues, and also a discussion of the what are called the EFL leagues, which are the Championship, League 1, and League 2. And then in the second part of the article, we're going to talk about how you can watch and stream all of the different games. Almost every English game, professional game, is available somewhere to watch and stream in the US. So we tell you all about how to do that in the article. And also another big announcement is we're going to have some new magnets.
Oh my God, Phil, shut up.
Merch.
You're going to be able to put our logo right on your car.
This is fantastic. You need to go and do that. And also, here's some big news. Mia Khalifa is following Aaron Moy on Twitter. And so for any of you who don't know who either of those two people are, Mia Khalifa is porn. Let's just go with porn. Aaron Moy is an Australian soccer superstar playing for not so super Huddersfield, who also lost their manager this weekend. And that was news straight across the desk.
What else did you have tonight, Matt?
That's all I got for you guys, man. Just thank you for having me on again. And I'm looking forward to joining you guys week after week as we talk about League One, Championship, EPL. We're going to be talking U.S. men's national team in the next week with the president of the American Outlaws Phoenix chapter, as we here in Phoenix get ready to host a U.S. men's national team match against Panama.
Panamanian Devils.
I tell you what, you guys will want to win that match for all the shit you've given me about Australia barely winning against Syria, but we're still in the hunt, guys. We'll win this thing, don't you worry.
Yeah, we're excited to have on another guest and talk about the U.S. men's national team, which we normally focus on English football, but we're also going to be discussing the men's national team and their new coach, Greg Berhalter's first coaching appearance will be right here in Phoenix against Panama. We also have the USL and MLS seasons coming around.
Yes.
We will talk about those some during the summer, especially because the English leagues will be on their off period then. So we will be a 12-month show for those of you that are wondering. And thank you, Matt, for joining us. And we look forward to having you on the show with us every week because you certainly make a better show, and we couldn't be more excited to add you to the team. I think that's all I had. So for the night, we digress. And
we digress.